Here we are. So, hey, what's going on, beautiful people? Wherever you're listening from, I'm your host, Kenneth Tiberius Clark. I'm coming to you from sunny San Diego, and I want to welcome you guys to the Breakroom Breakdown Sports Podcast, where we create content for all sports fans. All right, so not just the veterans and experienced guys, before our more rookie, our more casual listeners. So, this is actually episode 2. I'm excited to have you guys. We're going to start today off with a bang. We'll go over some juicy news topics, and then we'll shift over and we'll actually talk about some of the more hotter topics going across professional sports right now. So first, we're going to touch on the MLB because obviously their season just started. But the defending champion Los Angeles Dodgers are stumbling out of the gates, right? A team that some people said was the greatest assembled in the history of the game is literally, they're at a pedestrian 20-17, third in the NL West. And I mean, man, it hasn't been pretty. Let's see, they've accumulated the 17 losses in about 36 or 37 less games than what they did last year, because last year they finished 43-17. And their struggles were on full display. They had a 5-15 skid from April 19th to about April 18th, 19th to about May 9th. So 5-15, not really pretty. Trevor Bauer said, we're not going to just sleepwalk our way to the playoffs. So there's definitely some frustrations going on behind the scenes there. And a lot of people attribute it to a lot of different things. I know they've had some injuries, especially in their bullpen. So Cody Bellinger, Caleb Ferguson, and David Price. And they've had some inconsistency on offense as well, right? So for those people that don't understand what a bullpen is, that's where your relief pitchers are. All right. It usually consists of about 5 pitchers. So if you have injuries there, like the Dodgers, I mean, man, you're in for a long goddamn season, right? So I don't know what they're going to do. I don't know what changes that they're going to make or what they're going to implement. But guess what? There's a team in my city, right, where I'm currently at, in sunny San Diego, a young, talented team in the Padres that are more than happy to take that top spot in the NL West. So hopefully the Dodgers figure it out. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks. On the NBA side, all right, the NBA play-in tournament, the second annual NBA play-in tournament that a lot of guys hate, will be starting within the next few days. Hey, we're looking at some pretty exciting matchups. All right, so we could possibly see Steph Curry. Not possibly. I think it's all but happening now. We could see a Steph Curry-led Warriors team go against the Los Angeles Lakers. Right, the Lakers who were arguably the favorites outside of the Nets. But they were the favorites coming into the season. Definitely have struggled with injuries. Anthony Davis, LeBron James been hurt, and you've had this cast of, I ain't gonna say misfits, but role players kind of holding the fort down until these guys get healthy. But now they're going against a Warriors team, and with Steph Curry, they're completely undermanned. The Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, but they don't have Klay Thompson. Klay Thompson, definitely got hurt before the season started. So it's going to be interesting, and I think it's going to be a measuring stick more for Steph Curry, just so he can show people what his impact truly is. Because the fact that he's even gotten them this far just speaks. Just freaking volumes. I don't want to curse, but it just speaks freaking volumes. So we could see that matchup, and we could see the Hornets and the Celtics. All right. When looking at the other side, the other conference, the East. The Hornets, I think if anybody told you coming to this season that they felt like the Hornets were going to be playoff contenders, I would have called you a liar. But LaMelo Ball has impressed. Terry Rozier, he's played his role. And everything's just coming together there. Meanwhile, on the other end, you have a team in the Celtics who have underwhelmed, who were supposed to be the next great thing. Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's out for the season now, but they were supposed to be the next great thing in sports or in basketball, and that just hasn't came to fruition. So hopefully they can put things together, but those are the 2 most interesting matchups that I'm looking at. Now, for those people that don't understand or don't know what the NBA play-in tournament is, it's basically – it's a simple concept that was implemented last season during COVID. Things got interesting, but it just gives the top 10 teams in each conference an opportunity to get into the playoffs. All right. So usually I know the top 6 teams are guaranteed a playoff spot, the top 6 teams in either conference, and 7 through 10 they actually play each other to obviously get that opportunity to get into the playoffs. So that's really what it is. I know it usually lasts about 3 days. So this year can be anywhere between I think May 18th through May 21st. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun to watch. And we'll see what happens with the Lakers and LeBron. Once again, I'm not the biggest LeBron fan. We'll see if they can hold things down and if they don't slip, because just yesterday they were the 4th seed and now they're the 7th seed. So definitely not looking pretty, but we'll see what happens. So that is the NBA play-in. Let's talk about another hot topic in the NBA. Russell Westbrook, a very highly criticized player, just broke Oscar Robinson's record for triple doubles, right? Which was previously 181. All right. This is a record it's been around. I want to say it's been up since about 1974, right? The early parts of 1974, March. Yeah, he broke it, I think, March 1974. So it's very impressive. Now, once again, for those people that don't know what a triple double is, all it is accumulating 10 or more in 3 of the 5 stat categories, right? So assists, points, etc. Right? So that's what a triple double is. But Russ right now, if I'm not mistaken, let's see, he's averaging 22 points, 11 rebounds, and 11 assists. All right. Now that's impressive. And I'm not gonna dispute that. I'm not gonna take that away from him. But I think the question we have to ask is, regardless of these statistics, what is his legacy? Like where is Russell Westbrook's place in history? So he has this high motor level of play, like he's just always nonstop, right? Kind of similar to Kobe, because Kobe's like that. He doesn't let the game come to him. He just kind of takes it by force. So Russ has this high motor that's always running hot, and it's become his calling card. But it's also become, in many ways, become his biggest flaw. All right. He currently has a 2.12 assist to turnover ratio, which isn't super great, and a .438 career shooting percentage. All right. To put that in layman's terms, he turns the ball over more than he creates offense, and he's not a great shooter. So, and he struggles in the clutch, right? I know if I'm not mistaken, he has the most missed clutch shots over the past 10 years. All right. So it's definitely not pretty. So the triple double is nice, but there's a lot that comes with that triple double. So some people have accused him, when looking at stuff like this, some people have accused him of stat chasing. And when you pay attention and you look at the numbers, I mean, it's definitely arguable. But that being said, another popular narrative when it comes to Russell Westbrook, a lot of people say he's a bad teammate. Now, this I don't agree with. I think he's a great player. And I think if you really look at, historically, you look at some of his teammates, they speak highly of him, right? So Enes Kanter, let's see, Bradley Beal this year, Steven Adams, these guys, they've spoke highly of Russ, right? He has great leadership and work ethic. All right. He has great intangibles. So that was never the issue, right? Now this is where I think things kind of get hazy a little bit. I think you have certain players that have kind of realized that his style of play isn't necessarily synonymous with winning. So let's see. You have KD. KD left Golden State. Not left. He left for Golden State. He left, OKC for Golden State, and obviously now he's won 2 championships. But we witnessed that struggle for a long time. That somewhat of a power struggle, or how were they going to coexist? Which they made it work for a while, but they just couldn't get the job done. So KD left. Then you have Paul George. Paul George hung in there for about 2 seasons before going to the LA Clippers. We kind of knew that. We kind of knew he wasn't going to be there very long. And then we just watched James Harden this year. We literally watched this man force his way out of Houston. All right. And he didn't look back. He didn't bat a damn eye. Now, it could be more about the organization than it was about Russell Westbrook. So I give him that. But it's becoming an alarming trend. Like every time Russell Westbrook plays with these big stars, something always happens. It's like the nature, the universe just forms like, okay, this guy's going to leave. They always leave, right? And now it's Bradley Beal. And there's not a soul that can look me in my goddamn eyes and tell me that Bradley Beal is going to stay in Washington. He's not. The first chance he gets, the first thing smoking, he's going to catch out of there. He's going to go to a better situation. Well, not only where he can essentially, be in the spotlight, be in a bigger market, but somewhere where he can win, right? They're not doing that in Washington right now. So it comes a time, unfortunately, where sometimes we have to look ourselves in the mirror and we have to be like, man, like, it's me. Like, I'm the common denominator. And I think that's what Russell Westbrook kind of has to do with just the history of guys playing with big stars and them leaving. So when looking at his legacy, there's no way I can put him. I can't rightfully put him over a Magic. Let's see, a Jason Kidd, a Steph Curry, Isaiah Thomas. I can't put him over those guys. I rightfully in my soul, I just can't do that. Like we see what Steph Curry is doing in Golden State right now. It's ridiculous, right? He's taking a ragtag group of guys, and he's in the playoffs. So that's impressive enough in itself. And then watch this. Even outside of those core guys that I just named, you still have guys like Jerry West, John Stockton, Steve Nash, who weren't just special, but they were very efficient. So I think when you look at where you put him at, I think he floats somewhere between 5 and 10 all time. At least in my book, all right? This isn't this is my opinion, right? So I say, in the end, I think he's a unique player. He's a very unique, he's flawed, but he's going to make it to the Hall of Fame. As much as we don't like it, Russell Westbrook is going to be in the Hall of Fame. Not we, but some people. He's going to be in the Hall of Fame, and that's okay. We're going to have players that aren't perfect, that may not ever reach their potential, or they may not ever get the job done by themselves. Another guy easily we can name is Carmelo Anthony, right? He's a special player, maybe not as flawed as Russell Westbrook is, but he just was never able to get the job done as a number one or lead a team to a championship itself. So we're going to have guys like that in history, but we just have to appreciate them for who they are. And that's what we have to do with Russell Westbrook. So that's the NBA. The NFL, we've got some interesting things going on as well. When talking about flawed players, right? One of the most flawed quarterbacks we've probably seen in the past 20 years is possibly making a return, a surprise return to the NFL, and that is Tim Tebow. All right, so Tim Tebow is reportedly in talks with Jacksonville to sign a 1-year deal, right? Still up in the air. I mean, obviously, Urban Meyer is discussing it with his staff. But Tim Tebow's not coming as a quarterback. He's going to play tight end, which is interesting. It's a position they talked about him playing when he was coming out of Florida. Oh, he's going to be a tight end, obviously, but he got drafted as a quarterback. So he's maintained that close relationship with Urban Meyer throughout the years. Clearly, right? It's paid off. But some people hate it. I love this potential signing. It's not about it being a home run. And it's not about the impact that Tim Tebow will have on the field, right? Because if he comes in there, they don't have a lot of great tight ends. So if Tim Tebow comes there, he's going to come there and he's going to be there. I'm not going to say he's going to be there. If he's their number one guy, then I think you need to do some self-reflecting as an organization. But I think he can easily come in and be your number 3 guy. Maybe you play him on special teams. Just to do it all. What I like to call a lunch pail guy, just a guy that comes in and gets the job done. But the reason why I like the potential signing is from a culture building standpoint. All right. So what some people have to realize, or what a lot of people have to realize, is this is Urban Meyer's first stint as a head coach in the National Football League. So this guy has to find a way. He has to implement his culture and imprint himself on the Jacksonville Jaguars if they're going to be successful. It may not be a 1-year process. It may be a 2 to 3 year process for guys to buy in. Because one thing we got to realize is these aren't. He was at Ohio State, he was at Florida, right? He's at Utah. These aren't these aren't 17, 18-year-old impressionable kids. All right. These are grown men, all right, grown ass men, making multi-millions. So they're less prone to listen. They're less prone to buy in, right? Because they're in a position of, well, I would like to think so. They're in a position where they're kind of more in control of things, not like college. So why not bring in a guy in Tim Tebow, who's arguably one of the most influential leaders that Urban Meyer's ever coached? I mean, I think it would be a good fit just for that reason, right? He comes in and he helps you build this tough, hard-nosed environment that Urban Meyer has found a way to build everywhere he goes, right? So, and we have to put respect on Tim Tebow's name. All right, I think a lot of people forget his only season as a starter, which he didn't start the whole season. When he was in Denver, he took them to the playoffs. And they won a wild card game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, if I'm not mistaken, were the number one defense at that time. So, he's definitely not a slouch. I think he just came in at a time where he really didn't fit what the prototypical quarterback was in the National Football League. And that is what, in the end, that was his undoing. But I would like to say I think he was responsible for kind of bringing the read option. You saw Mike McCoy kind of build that thing around him as the season progressed. But I would say there's one game in that season that really stood out to me. And it was when the Broncos played the New York Jets. So this was one of my favorite games. So they're playing the Jets, and it's the fourth quarter, and they start on their own 5-yard line. And I think he threw the first play. It's like a 7-yard screen dump off pass to Eddie Royal, goes for like 7 yards, right? But after that, I want to say 5 out of the next 10 plays, Tim Tebow's running the ball. And this is 2011. The Jets they're top of the league. They're the creme de la creme, especially from a defensive standpoint, right? They were one of the top defenses in the National Football League at that time. And, he just had this will that he just kept pushing the ball downfield, whether he was running it. He completed, once again, a couple passes to like Demaryius Thomas and I think Eric Decker. But he capped it off. He had that 20-yard scamper around the end, and he kind of broke a Eric Smith tackle. But I remember watching that moment and just being so wowed. And it wasn't because it was like it was just pretty football, right? Like we see quarterbacks come in all the time. We just watched Justin Herbert and Patrick Mahomes and all these guys, just do impressive things. It wasn't pretty, but you felt like you were genuinely watching a great competitor. Not a great quarterback, but a competitive football player. Right. That's the greatest compliment a guy can get. He's a great football player. Right. I learned that I was watching America's Game. Someone said that. So Tim Tebow, once again, I love him for wherever he goes. Hopefully he would go to Jacksonville. I think it'd be a good fit. But I think guys would embrace him. And people, once again, I don't want people to get caught up the Tebowing and, the Christian, the scriptures on the eyes. All right. That stuff is done. This is a guy that loves the game, and he just wants to come and he wants to contribute to building something great, something substantial. And hopefully they give him the opportunity to do so. Right. So that's Tim Tebow. But if we want to talk about great quarterbacks, right, there's a great quarterback that's possibly on the move right now, and Aaron Rodgers. All right. So reportedly, Aaron Rodgers is unhappy with GM Brian Gutekunst. That's his name, right? Gutekunst, yeah. And the Packers organization. And he's told multiple teammates and free agents that his time in Green Bay is done, which is crazy, right? He's been there. He's been in the league 17 seasons now. So is he justified in the way that he feels? I think that's the interesting question. Some people will say no. All right, we have some of these people who just feel like, NFL players are just slaves that, they signed the contract and they're just supposed to just do anything and, not have an opinion. Right. And I don't like those people. This show isn't for you. But if you look at his tenure there, they really haven't catered to his wants and needs in the grand scheme of things. If we really pay attention to it, they haven't given him, at times they have, but if you're looking at where he's at now, they're not giving him the financial commitment that he's asking for. He's asked for multiple, he's asked for wide receivers and offensive firepower in the draft. And last year was perhaps the biggest slap in the face that I've ever seen. As opposed to drafting wide receivers, which there were plenty of them that went in that first round, they drafted his replacement in Jordan Love, who has a long way to go as far as becoming a legitimate quarterback in this league. But they drafted Jordan Love, and they failed to really draft any notable pass catchers throughout the draft. I think they drafted a tight end in the third round out of Cincinnati. I don't know how much he played or whatever. But once again, the fact that I don't even know the guy's name, that should just kind of hint at kind of the how they've mistreated him since he's been there. And he's been looking for those, more weapons. Granted, he has Devontae Adams. He has a couple other guys, Valdez-Scantling, and, solid role players. But obviously, I think every time you watch them, that there's something missing. And obviously, he's noticed that something's missing since Jordy Nelson departed and Randall Cobb left as well in 2019. So they haven't really truly given him those weapons that he wanted. And, we were also hearing reports of Antonio Brown signing, right? Antonio Brown wanted to was looking at Green Bay and Tampa Bay, and I want to say it could have been one or two other franchises, but Green Bay, I would say Aaron Rodgers mainly, he really wanted Antonio Brown, but obviously that fell through because he's back in Tampa now. So when looking at let's see, who are the contenders? Who are the contenders to actually sign him, to actually trade for his services? And in the AFC West, you actually have two rivals in the Broncos and the Las Vegas Raiders that are actually vying for his services. This is unfortunate because I actually like Derek Carr. I like Derek Carr. Drew Lock, not so much. But, what do you give up for him? What is Aaron Rodgers' value at this trajectory of his career? He's 37 years old. He has an injury history. All right. So you're not getting a 27, 28-year-old stud with 5 to 10 years left in his prime. So, what are you realistically giving up for him? Right. Remember, he had a history. I think he had about 2 collarbone injuries. So there's definitely some concern there. So when I look at that situation, when I look at what a team would give up for him, I look at possibly a future first round pick, and maybe you package that with a young athletic player, and that's what you give up for him, right? Because at 37 years old, let's be real, Tom Brady is the outlier when it comes to older, talented quarterbacks kind of beating father time just a little bit, right? And even then we can tell where he's digressed a little bit, where he's kind of started to decline just a little bit, right? But he's the outlier. We've watched Peyton Manning and Drew Brees. We seen them on their last leg, and it was pretty atrocious, right? It wasn't pretty. Peyton Manning, when I watched him in the 2015 Super Bowl, I was watching it and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, this can't be the same Peyton Manning that was the most cerebral, one of the most dominant quarterbacks in NFL history. But once again, some guys just play. Everybody has an expiration date. Some people try to beat it and play past that expiration date, and you get results like that. So you could possibly have a situation in about 3 or 4 years where that's kind of what you're getting out of them. And that's not what I would wish for him, but that's definitely a possibility. So once again, future first round pick package with a young player. I think that should suffice because at the end of the day, I love the player. He just came off an MVP season. It was very impressive, We just don't know how long he's going to uphold that level of play. So great player, but can you justify giving a king's ransom up for a guy that's entering his 17th season? That's the questions we have to ask. So, honestly, we'll have more to follow up on that in the coming weeks. I'm sure he'll be traded by the next episode we have. Who knows? But I hope you guys enjoyed the show. All right. I wanted to keep today very simple. All right. We're starting off with a bit. Everything's kind of coming together. The NBA playoffs is near, is nigh. The MLB is really just getting started up, and obviously we're just getting out of the NFL draft. So we're in a good transitional period in sports, and a lot of interesting things coming up. But once again, I hope you guys enjoyed today's show. We cover various topics. The Dodgers struggles, the NBA play-in tournament, Russell Westbrook's legacy, the possible return of Tim Tebow. Ooh, we'll see what happens, right? And Aaron Rodgers, his looming departure from Green Bay. So definitely a couple of interesting topics that we covered, but we're just getting warmed up. This is just the beginning of something great, something even better. So if you guys have fun, hey, go ahead and subscribe. We're on all major platforms: Google, Apple, Spotify, etc. Or if you want to chop it up with this guy, all right, this handsome guy right here, go back and forth and argue like a couple of barflies, you can actually check me out on Clubhouse. I have a sports chat called Rooted in Sports. And we can go back at it, and you meet some of my allies, some of my counterparts, and we can just discuss sports and have fun doing it. Right. So that is pretty much it. Until then, welcome aboard all the newcomers, and I'll see you next week. Have a good one, guys. Bye. Huh?